Hi everyone, welcome to my little corner of vegan YouTube. My name is Alina. Today I'm excited to share with you my recipe for delicious vegan chicken quesadillas made with fajita peppers and onions. What I love about this recipe is that these quesadillas are really delicious and easy to make. You could make these for a meat eater, and I guarantee you that they will be amazed at how spot on the texture of the chicken is. So I'm not going to talk much more about it. Let me just go ahead and show you how to make them. Let's go.
So here I've got my soy curls. This is what I'm going to use as my vegan chicken. These are 100% plant-based, made with just one ingredient, whole soybeans. They're not nearly as processed as some other vegan chicken substitutes on the market. And what's great is that they mimic the texture of chicken really well. This right here is about 1/3 of a bag. It's going to make enough filling for 2 large quesadillas. Now, the soy curls by themselves are pretty plain, so I'm going to add some chicken flavor using one of these bouillon cubes. This is not chicken bouillon cubes. They're vegan and gluten-free. You can also use better than bouillon, not chicken stock base, but I recently tried these and I think I kind of like them better. I'm going to crumble up this bouillon cube on top of my soy curls, and then I'm going to pour some boiling hot water over everything, just enough to cover the soy curls. Next, I'm going to give it a nice stir and leave it to soak for about 5 minutes. So it's been about 5 minutes. I'm going to stir my soy curls again. You see that they got nice and soft, which means that we can go ahead and start cooking them. Next, I'm going to add some avocado oil to my preheated nonstick pan. Once the oil is hot, I'm going to dump in my soy curls along with all of the juices.
I'm going to let my soy curls simmer until the liquid evaporates, because once it evaporates, all the chicken flavor will stay and the soy curls will absorb it. They will taste really delicious as a result, because the flavor won't be just on the surface, but it will be inside the soy curls too.
While I'm waiting for the liquid to evaporate, I'm going to cut up my peppers and onions. I cut the onion in half, then trim off the top and the bottom parts, and then slice it lengthwise into these thin strips. Then I do the same thing with the second half. My bell pepper is pretty big, so I'm going to use only 1/2 of it. So I'm going to cut it in half, and after that I'm going to cut it lengthwise into thin strips. Next, it's time to check on my soy curls. As you see, the broth has evaporated, but the soy curls themselves are still pretty soggy, so I'm going to let them cook a little bit longer so that they develop a nice chewy texture, sort of like what you would get from grilled chicken. About 3 to 4 minutes later, you'll notice that the soy curls start getting nice and golden and kind of crispy on the bottom. This is when it's important to stir them, because if you don't, then they will start sticking to the pan instead of developing that nice and crispy surface. At this point, things will go really fast. Continue stirring the soy curls every minute or so, and before you know it, you'll see that they will start getting beautifully golden brown and crispy all over. This is when my soy curls are all done, so I'm going to take them off the heat.
All right, let's give it a quick taste. Just gonna get a little one of these. So good. They're really chewy, a little bit crispy on the outside. And the seasoning, the flavor of that chicken broth really absorbed inside the soy curl. Really good. All right, I guess I should keep going with the recipe, or I'll eat the whole bowl.
Next up, it's time to cook my peppers and onions. I'm going to use the same pan with a little bit of avocado oil and dump my sliced peppers and onions right in. I don't need them to cook all the way through because I want them to retain a lot of their crunch. However, I want them to get nice and caramelized. The best way to achieve that is to toss them a little bit in the beginning and then let them sit without stirring for 2-3 minutes so that the sides of each piece touching the pan directly gets a chance to develop that lovely golden brown color. We call this caramelization because the natural sugars in peppers and onions get seared by the heat of the pan. That adds a nice complexity to the flavor of the vegetables, and also it works really well for the flavor of these quesadillas and any other Tex-Mex style dishes. Once my peppers and onions are done, I'm going to add the soy curls right back into the pan and toss it all together. I'm doing this to warm up the soy curls and also to get everything ready for seasoning. Speaking of seasoning, these are the spices that I really enjoy in this dish: oregano, cumin powder, chili powder, paprika, and chipotle pepper. So I'm going to sprinkle everything in. I usually don't measure the amounts and kind of go by feel, but if you want the precise measurements, I'm going to list them in the video description. Just scroll down under the video. So after this, I'm going to toss everything. And I also like to add some greens like chopped cilantro or scallions. They add a nice flavor. And also I like that their green color adds this lovely contrast to the colors of peppers and onions.
All right, now it's time to assemble my quesadillas.
I'm going to need 2 more ingredients. The first one is vegan shredded cheese. I like using this Chow Creamery Mexican style blend by Field Roast. It melts well in quesadillas and has a nice flavor. And the second ingredient is these large burrito sized tortillas. These are flour tortillas by Mission. So here I've got my first tortilla. I've spread it out and now I'm going to start putting my filling on its lower half. There isn't really a big rule on how much filling you want to put in your quesadilla. I usually put between 1/3 and 1/2 of the amount of filling that I just made. Keep the filling about 1/2 an inch or so from the edges of the tortilla so nothing is sticking out. Now here's a trick to get the cheese to melt more evenly. Once you put about 2/3 of the vegan chicken filling onto the tortilla, start putting on the cheese and then top with the rest of the chicken filling. This way, when you start grilling the quesadilla and the cheese starts melting, it will bind the filling and the tortilla both on top and on the bottom. And once the quesadilla is done, it won't be falling apart in your hands. Once I'm done, I'm going to fold the top of the tortilla over the bottom, press it down a little bit with my hands, and that's it. We're ready for grilling. Now, when it comes to grilling on stovetop, I like to use this grilling pan with a lid. I think it's by Calphalon, but I'm not sure. This is really old. Honestly, it's older than my marriage, and I've been married for 11 years.
Obviously, if you don't have a grilling pan like this one, any grilling pan will work. There's lots of them on the market. I will link up a few in the video description over here. And worst comes to worst, if you don't have one, if you don't have time to go looking for one, then you can just use the same pan that you cook the soy curls in. Just clean it off really well so that there's nothing stuck to the bottom. Otherwise, the tortilla might get stuck to it.
I'm going to go ahead and put my grilling pan on the stove. Now, the important part is to heat the pan slowly because we don't want to make it too hot too quickly. Otherwise, the tortilla may start getting burnt before the filling ever gets a chance to warm up and get the cheese melted. Now that my pan is hot, I'm going to carefully slide the quesadilla right in there. Note that I didn't grease the pan or the tortilla because the tortilla is made with some fat in it, so it will grill up just fine. I'm going to put the lid on to add some extra heat and some extra pressure, but if your pan doesn't come with a lid, then no problem. You can just leave it as is. About 2-3 minutes later, I'm going to start checking on the progress. All right, you see that there are some nice grill marks. So now I need to flip it. I'm going to use this larger spatula and press it down on the top side and just carefully flip it over. Then I'm going to put the lid back on and lower the heat because at this point the pan is really hot, so we don't want to burn the bottom of the tortilla. Another minute or 2 later, it's time to check on my quesadilla again. All right, you see that the bottom has nice grilled marks, so it's time to take it off the heat. So I'm going to use my big spatula again and carefully move my quesadilla onto a cutting board.
Alright, so what's left is to try my quesadilla. I've got some of my homemade vegan yogurt that I'm going to use instead of sour cream. So I'm going to put a little bit on here. And let's give it a try. So good. It's perfect. There's just enough cheese to add some nice flavor and hold everything together. So you see, nothing's falling out. And the soy curls have a perfect texture resembling chicken, and the seasoning and the flavors, everything just comes together so nicely. The peppers and onions, I just love it. Next up, if you enjoy vegan Tex-Mex recipes just like this one, Check out this video next. This is my recipe for delicious vegan instant pot taquitos with a pinto bean filling. This is one of our family's favorite weeknight dinners. They are really easy to make. I'll also show you how to make this really nice avocado dip that goes perfectly with them. So yeah, check it out and I will see you right there in that video. Bye-bye.